Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner football fans podcast. We were supposed to have Andrew Southard from Midwest City on with us, but we had some technical difficulties, and we're going to have Andrew on next week. So you got me and Rob, and guess what we're talking about? That's right, Sooner football coaches' raises, and especially one defensive coordinator's raise. Sooner football fans is not affiliated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Boom. Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner football fans podcast. You got Terry and Rob here. Boomer, Rob.
Boomer, Terry.
And today we're still working on our new format, so you get to hear me and Rob for a little bit before we bring on our podcast guest, a fan. But obviously the news of today is...
raises all around.
Money, 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 money.
Right?
Good Lord. The Board of Regents approved a hefty sum of money for everybody, and we're going to kind of go through the coaches' salaries and see how much money they got, and we may throw in a couple other things that the Board of Regents approved. But first off, Lincoln Riley now makes more money than his quarterback.
As Caleb would say, that we know of.
Yeah, we know of. Exactly. They're paying him $100,000 more a year.
Is that all it came down to? Is $100,000 a year?
Yeah, $4.8 million is what Riley's got, and for this year, and Kyler's got $4.7 million.
You mean over Kyler?
Yeah. So, I put out on Twitter, I wonder if that was done on purpose. I think so. What do you think, Rob?
and is he worth that?
Yeah.
I think the overwhelming answer is going to be yes, but
yeah,
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, but they gave him just enough to get him over Kyler.
Do you think he went in there and said, "Hey, listen, my quarterback's making 4.7, okay?
You got to do something." I got people working for me making more money than me. That ain't right. So, but let's see. What else are we looking here? Riley will average $5 million a year. That would place him tied for 10th among head coaches, though several coaches in the top 10 have changed schools. Alabama's one with $11.132 million. That's ridiculous.
$11 million a year.
Yeah. So
I mean, how can you argue with is he worth it or not?
Well, I mean, how many damn titles has he got?
Right? I mean, you can't argue it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's no way you could sit here and say, but Dabo is 8.5, and I'm getting this off the sportingnews.com. Harbaugh is overpaid $7 million a year.
Yeah, for sure.
And Urban Meyer is $6.4 million a year.
So I got to tell you, I think any school in the nation, excluding a few, Oklahoma being one of them, probably Michigan being one, if they had a shot at Nick Saban for $11 million a year, they'd jump all over it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shoot, probably $12 million. If he'd say, "Hey, give me an extra," I'm sure probably Alabama would throw whatever they had to keep him there.
Absolutely, they would. They
would be digging deep into the swampland down there to get people to pull some money out. But they, I guess, they approved. Who was Shane Beamer? They approved his $435,000 salary.
Special teams better be really good this year.
Let's see. Who do we want to go through? We're going to save Mike Stoops for later. Kel Gundy went from $430,000 to $500,000, which seems a little low for somebody that's been there 18 years. But it's just me. I mean, it seemed like, hey guys, I've been here a while. Biedenbow went from $535,000 to $625,000. Kerry Cooks, assistant defensive coordinator and D-backs. He's been there 2 years. He got a $25,000 raise to $500,000. Boulware got $400,000 to $435,000. Kish got $370,000 to 100,000. Simmons 350 to 400, and Thibodeau went from 270 to 325.
Is that 12% across the board? Is that what that is?
It's probably. I didn't put the.
I think that's the standard going.
Yeah, I'm not good at the new math, so.
Yeah, I got my shoes on, so I couldn't get that high.
But that's a lot of money. But I mean, I think it's needed because in this day and age, if you're not paying, those guys are going to go somewhere else if you're not coming up with the money to pay them.
Especially if it's a good staff. I mean, if you got some guys that you're like, yeah. Like if you're tech, do you give what's his name down there? Or you're like, hey, if you don't like it, man.
No, I think it has to do with the results. I mean, you can't argue with the results. They won the Big 12. They're in the playoffs. That brought a bunch of money to the university, so they've got to share it.
Phenomenal recruiting class this year.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily have a problem with all of it. I know there's people out there that'll say, with the state of the education that we're, the state of Oklahoma and the problems that we're having economic-wise, that paying football coaches that much. But, it's, for instance, with Lincoln, his contract includes a $325,000 a year base salary plus $3.47 million in unrestricted private funds for personal service, fundraising, and promotional activities, as well as a $500,000 annual stay benefit each June 1st and a supplemental retirement income plan worth $500,000 a year. That's one hell of a 401k right there, buddy.
Man, that's the way to go right there. I'm telling you.
So basically, they're paying him $325,000 to coach, and they're paying him $3.47 million to help raise funds. That sound, you know what I mean? It's unrestricted private funds for personal services, fundraising, and promotional activities.
What other kickers they got in there for him? Because there's got to be something.
They didn't go into any, bonuses, but I'm sure those are built in as well. Bonuses, they may have stayed the same. I don't know. But I know that Stoops they've got to be built in. But I was looking here. I don't want to misquote, but if I remember right, I was reading somewhere that Barry Switzer made like $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to look it up just to make sure that I'm not missing it here. But I'm just kind of looking through the old internet to see if I can't pull it up.
The interwebs.
The interwebs.
I mean, I'm sure that it was ridiculous what he was getting paid, but he's doing okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
he's doing all right.
So it's not like he's hurt for money or anything, but it's funny how times have changed to where there's that much money being thrown, and it's all it's all pretty much private funds. It's money that's raised, and it still, to me, it just dumbfounds me that there's that much money. And I know it's not in Oklahoma, but it's from people who are from Oklahoma. The graduates and people who've done well.
I mean, considering he's a state employee, the base salary it's way up there. I mean, our governor didn't even make that. So,
well, I won't go into politics on that one with our governor right now.
She doesn't deserve it.
So, but again, to have a caliber team and the way that teams are being played, I mean that the coaches are being paid, you've got to compete with those salaries, and they've got they got to keep these assistant coaches paid. And I don't think any Sooner fan can disagree with the results of the staff that they have.
I don't see how they could.
So
well, I mean, there's a couple there.
Yeah, but and like I said, we'll get into the one big one that I know that everybody set the Twitter world on fire a little bit, and Facebook on fire as far as their thoughts concerning Coach Mike Stoops, and we'll get into that with our fan guest here in a little bit. But on to business as well. We do want to keep promoting our Thursday night event at Buffalo Wild Wings for the Team Kyler Forever Foundation. This Thursday, June 21st, from 5 to 9 p.m., going to Buffalo Wild Wings. We've been kicking out the mobile certificates out on Twitter and Facebook. Have your phone out, show them that mobile certificate if you come into Buffalo Wild Wings, and they will give 10% of your ticket to the Team Kyler Forever Foundation. Again, if you don't know, if you haven't heard, it's for the family of Kyler Bonham, who is 4 years old, passed away about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and their family has started a foundation. Part of the money initially is going to take care of the final funeral costs for Kyler that they were not able to pay. And they have set up a foundation as well for donations to help families that come into the situation that they do, that they don't have the money to, not just the care of their child, but for burial expenses and things like that. So that has been developed and set up. Come out to Buffalo Wild Wings if you live here in Oklahoma City, Norman area. We will be there. There's a pretty good size group. I'm hoping that'll show up. Also, if you follow us on Twitter and Facebook, we've been kicking out the Twitterized T-shirt and coffee mugs. And
mine are still en route.
Yours are still en route. Mm-hmm. Lisa Gillette was modeling for us the other day, had her Twitter eyes on, and we appreciate that. She was the first person to show that she got her shirt in. So they're cool little shirts, something that we came up with that we thought, instead of just asking for people to send cash, here, buy a shirt and we'll just give all the money to this foundation. So if you can, buy a shirt. If you can, come out if you're local to Buffalo Wild Wings on Thursday night and help us out. But anyway, really, that's about all there is to talk about today. And Rob is the money situation.
I think that's probably going to be the thing that's on everybody's mind. So,
well, and you brought up a while ago they're building a new softball stadium instead of renovating the old.
Is that a done deal, or are they just still talking about it?
No, it's done. It was approved.
$22 million.
Yeah, approved by the Board of Regents. And
it's going to be 2 blocks south of the current one?
Right. On the northwest corner of Jenkins and it just went blank.
Whatever that road is in front of the Lloyd Noble.
Yeah. Whatever that road is.
North of Lloyd Noble.
Yeah. So I guess I heard part of the reason was that they just finished a renovation and I just wasn't big enough, apparently, obviously. And they looked at remodeling and adding to the existing stadium and decided it was more feasible just to build a bigger, nicer stadium a couple blocks away. And so, they approved that. And somebody put out on Twitter, what are they going to name the new softball complex? And I threw my name in there as Patty's Ass Whooping Pit. So that's what it is. And I think have that real big. The University of Oklahoma.
I'm pretty sure they're not going to do that, Terry. But I got my fingers crossed for you. I'm pulling for you on that one.
Imagine the intimidation of a team when they pull up and they say, "Welcome to Patty's Ass Whooping Pit."
That would hold sway on some people. I'm pretty sure.
So, but anyway, again, thank you guys for joining us. We're going to get to our guests now. Okay, well, I guess we lied. We don't have a guest. We did have a guest lined up, but we got some technical difficulties with our connections to the cell phones. We had Andrew Southard from Midwest City lined up to be on with us, and called him, and he couldn't hear us. We could hear him.
Sorry about that, Andrew.
So I worked on trying to get it fixed. We just couldn't get it fixed. We've had some little technical issues here. We had one with Trilinda. And maybe this was the whole thing was maybe the microphone cord was going out or the phone cord was going out, whatever. But it all started back with the Angry Sooner. It was when we first had our problem, so I'm blaming it on Angry. At least somebody won't blame it on Rob this time, huh, Rob?
Right?
Sooner Lisa.
I just stand people up. That's all I do. Good grief.
So you're late for your date with Sooner Lisa. It wasn't really for her to be on the podcast, and then he stands up former Miss Oklahoma, Treelinda Kerr. So, but
what can I say?
He's a popular man. Okay, well, what we were going to talk to Andrew about what he wanted to, but we have to talk about it because it's the news, like we were talking about right before our break to have him on. Was the coaches' raises, and we were saving Mike Stoops for last. So, Mike Stoops gets a contract extension to 2020, and his pay raise goes from $920 to $950, so $30,000 a year raise.
What was he making over in Arizona as head coach?
I have no idea. I could look it up. It'd probably take me a minute, but here's my thing. Well, let's just throw it out here, Rob. 2014. This is according to collegefootballstats.com and NCAAstats.com, the NCAA website. 2014, Oklahoma's total defense ranked 52nd. 2015, 89th, 2016, 82nd, and 2017, 67th.
Unacceptable.
Does that merit a $30,000 a year raise?
Actually, I think they went the wrong way.
And extend his contract through 2020. Now, I'm sorry. Of all the raises, I disagree with that. This is the one I disagree with. Because every one of us, yourself included, we're paid based on job performance.
Absolutely.
If I come up for a raise at my real job, I go through my performance appraisal. My boss sits down and says, we're going to give you 3.5%, we're going to give you 5%, or we're not going to give you nothing at all. And it's based off of what they think you did. How can he sit down in front of his boss, Lincoln Riley, and how can Lincoln Riley, I can understand him giving him a vote of confidence, going, Mike, we're going to stick around with you. We know you can do this, but not Mike. We believe in you. We're going to stick with you. We're going to give you $30,000 more a year, and we're going to extend your contract, because they would not have done that without Riley saying that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, if they're handing out a standard, 12% across the board raise pattern, does he qualify for that? Does he not qualify for that? I don't know, but I think it probably says something that he didn't get. He's not getting big money. I mean, there are a lot of DCs making a lot more money than he is. Brent Venables is one of them. So I don't know that that's necessarily. I mean, he got the raise, yes, but I don't know if that's necessarily a high exaltation to him, for him.
I just think it's a situation where we went to the playoffs. Most fans will tell you, and most analysts will tell you, what lost the Rose Bowl. It was our defense. And even before the Rose Bowl, all the analysts, Herb Street, all the guys on game day were saying, we know that Baker Mayfield and the Oklahoma offense is going to get theirs. It's whether or not Oklahoma's defense can stop Georgia from getting theirs.
And since we're talking about a loss, Terry, the answer is no. Well, we could the first two quarters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they did great. I still don't have an idea what happened after we came out from halftime when we just absolutely could not stop Chubb. I mean, they just made some great adjustments at halftime, I assume. Honestly, I haven't been able to go back and watch it because I'm still too mad.
Well, and, like I said, it's not just the Rose Bowl. I mean, for crying out loud, we've talked about it 1,000 times, because it's the off season. There's nothing else to talk about. But we beat Ohio State handily. We go in and push them around all over their home field. And we come out against Baylor, and Baylor just lights us up. Okay?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I forget about Georgia. We'll talk about a win. Oh,
hey,
Baylor.
Right.
Baylor, we beat Baylor. It was just like the Texas Tech game 2 years ago. There was no defense on either side of the ball.
Well, it reminds me of that game up in West Virginia when it was just ridiculous. We couldn't stop anybody for, it was just, I wanted to shoot somebody. But, I cannot stand that kind of defense. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. Honestly, I feel like me and you could have stepped in and did a better job than Mike Stoops did in several of those games.
Yeah.
Now, there are other games, though, that Mike Stoops did really, really well. I mean, he shut down Ohio State.
Yeah.
Shut them down.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't a juggernaut or anything, but they were still formidable.
Yeah.
So,
well, most people will tell you they should have been in the playoffs instead of Bama. But again, let's look at the Kansas State game. Another Oklahoma win. Our defense just lets them run all up and down the field on us. Oklahoma State, we beat them, but it was, it was a point fest. So, whether or not it was a 12% raise across the board for everybody, maybe it was a pat on the back, good job, but I'm still on the fact of, let's say my office or where you work at, we do well, but yet let's say I have issues with authority. I have, you know what I mean? I have, a high turnover in my office. All these things. I mean, I run a,
they're all indicators.
Yeah.
Everyone.
We could have had a good year, but my performance could be bad, and because of the team I have around me. So it's, to me, just because the team made it doesn't merit everybody on, I'm sure they got a bonus for going to the playoffs. I'm sure they got a bonus for winning the Big 12.
Yep.
There you go. There's your pat on the back. Hey, we're going to give everybody a raise, but you, Mike.
Listen, that trend of defense, 60s, 70s, that needs to be going the other way before you get,
or why, an extension is always a vote of confidence. Am I wrong in that thinking?
No.
If they give you an extension.
We like what you're doing, and we want you to keep doing it.
Right. So where is the vote of confidence for the last, where does that come from in the last 4 years? 52nd ranked defense in 14, 39th in 15, 82nd in 16, 67th in 17.
Well, maybe they're seeing the jump from the 80s up into the 60s, which in my opinion is still unacceptable.
Right. I mean, our defense should be as formidable as our offense. And we have, is it realistic?
How realistic is that expectation?
Is to go, we should have the number one offense and defense in the country. No, but we should have, with Oklahoma, okay, and the pedigree that we have here, we should be in the top 25, top 40 in defense.
Well, we're
in one or the other.
Since we're just fans and we're not paid to do this stuff. The thing is every year I want the number one offense and the number one defense. That's not very realistic, and I understand that as a fan. But I think that it's very realistic for us to expect a defense that can come out after halftime and have adjustments made. It wasn't the players. I mean,
no, it wasn't. There was some poor tackling, but in my fan opinion, like just tackling is coaching. And Jason said something, that I have to agree with. After I thought about it, he said he saw a lack of effort there in the third quarter. There were some guys standing around that shouldn't have been standing around. But again, he's the defensive coordinator. He's the guy responsible for getting those people. So
So I don't know if he is just disconnected with them because at halftime he was yelling and screaming. It turned them all off, and they stopped playing for him. Whatever the reason is, they came out after halftime and lost the football game that they were in complete control.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know. I mean, I just don't see where you can merit, maybe a 12% raise because it was across the board. Good job, guys. You went to the playoffs again, so on and so forth. But to give him a vote of confidence, an extension for 2 more years to 2020 just doesn't make any sense to me. Because if we roll out everybody we've had on, and again, we're fans, everybody that we've had on says if we're a top 30, top 40 defense, we win the national championship.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt last year.
Without a doubt.
So what if we do the same thing this year? We have the number one offense, which I personally think is probably going to happen. In most categories, we're going to be number one again. And then we spit out another, 62, 63, 58 ranked defense. Then what?
Well, it's going to be hard to keep the Fire Mike Stoop, websites from going up everywhere, I think.
And I understand. I mean, I'm not that kind of fan. Okay, you aren't either. We're not the type of fan to stand up and go scream and holler and fire. But if they did, it wouldn't bother me. If they, I was surprised that he stayed. I'm honestly surprised he's still here. But I'm not the one that's going to stand up and go, fire him. I put on Twitter, on our Twitter account today, things that make you go, I don't understand this. I don't understand anybody's thinking behind it. I don't think most fans do either.
Well, I think that it's fair to assume that, this recruiting class that's coming in is stacked defensively, I think. At least a lot of good ones. And I think that Lincoln right now is getting 100% of that credit. So I think we have to assume that Mike is more heavily involved in some of those big recruits coming in than we know. Or, that's what I want to believe.
Well, it would have to be, because I don't think, I know that, Ruffin McNeil has had a, big part in it, but
Bob Diaco probably had a good
right. part
of it.
But the bottom line is he's the defensive coordinator, and, Caleb brought it up on a way early podcast that if you talk to players that played for him, and who was worse out of the two, Venables or Stoops? Apparently Venables was a bigger screamer than Stoops.
Really?
Yeah. But, we can fall back on the, kids don't respond to that, type of stuff today. I've seen, Bob, I saw Bob. I've seen Lincoln, at games, they would show him he'd be in a kid's face. It's part of football.
Well, I agree. There's a huge difference though, and I've had both coaches. I've had the ones that were screaming at me because I wasn't performing, and then I've had them scream at me because they didn't like me. I mean, so how you scream at a kid, it's how it's done.
Right.
If you scream at him like he's just a POS, that's one thing. If you're screaming at him because he took a play off, that's another.
Right.
So I'm not a big fan of the whole getting in a kid's face and screaming at him and belittling.
Right.
I don't believe in that kind of.
Well, I don't believe in the belittling, but I mean, it's it's a violent sport. Okay. And when you come off, I have no problem with if it was my kid or anybody else's kid, you're out of position to make the play, or you're not doing what you're supposed to. I don't have a problem. You come off and the coach meets you face to face and go, "What are you doing?"
And we did that too.
Yeah,
I mean, we did that.
Yeah,
we were coaches. Terry and I coached together.
And you know better than to do X, Y, Z. In this you're supposed to be here. That I don't have an issue with that, but I think a lot of people are getting to have an issue with that. And I think that's it's wrong. And I think. You and I have talked about it before, not on the podcast, but, you wonder, they showed, used to show Mike Stoops over there on the sideline spitting and,
oh, man,
everything going
looked
sideways.
like he could have shot somebody in the face.
Yeah. And whether or not there were some negative recruiting in on that. Look, do you want to go there and have this guy screaming and hollering at you? But I also think, as any good coach he's the type that'll praise you if you do well. And I think that's, I played high level class 4A high school football in Oklahoma, and I'm telling you, my coach, Alan Wadsworth, he was the head coach. He would be the first one to grab you by the face mask and pull you down. He's shorter than all of us, and chew on you. But he would be the first one to come up and grab you and give you a noogie for a good job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And aggressive coaches like that on both sides, I think, is what you want. I haven't seen anything, that says Mike's not that. I love his statement when, the Superman play. Roy did that earlier in the game, and he got chewed out for it. Dove, and because he's not supposed to leave your feet. That's football one-on-one.
You don't one-on-one football. Yep.
You don't leave your feet. And what did you say to him when he came back after that? Thanks for not listening to me was what he said. I'm glad you didn't listen to me.
Well, there are some athletes that exist outside of football 101, and Super Roy was one of them.
Yeah,
which it really just brings you to rule number one: don't be a sissy.
Right.
I mean, don't be a sissy. Get out there and play football.
Yeah.
And then if you're playing, I ain't got to scream at you. If you stop playing, if you start playing like a sissy, guess what? I'm going to scream at you.
Right. So,
but not like I hate you, or or I want to beat you. Or
it's instructional yelling.
Or if I'm the pirate from Texas Tech, lock you in a
sweatbox
and shed out behind the football stadium.
So, it is what it is. I mean, it's not that I don't think our coaches deserve, and the Mike Stoops thing doesn't make much sense to me. I get what you're saying, Rob, and I think everybody who does. It looks like it's across the board raises, but it doesn't. I saw nothing else where it said, that anybody else's contracts were extended. So,
well, they may not be tied to performance. I mean, yeah. I can't see how they wouldn't be, but if it's either that or we just have to assume that we just don't have all the information.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously we don't, and we never will.
Yeah,
it's all speculation. And I'm still on the one. If you're one of your favorite coaches, Kel Gundy. We won't ask Rob anything about that, but he's been here 18 years. 18 years, and he's making $500,000 a year. And there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 coaches making that much or more than he is. So, and everybody, there's been, even Lincoln has said, his first recruiting trip with Oklahoma was him and Cale out. They rented an old Cadillac in some town. It was hilarious. There's a picture of him. He's... Regardless, the guy has done a good job. I mean, he's been loyal to the university. I'm sorry, Rob is just. If you could just see the look on his face, that he's not going to say. He's not going to say anything. But I'm just saying, if it were me, I might have an issue with it. If somebody is, if I'm the longest tenured coach on your staff.
Well, so here's the thing. We're talking about these raises, and nobody is like even, Coach Biedenbow. He has obviously done an amazing job.
Right.
And he just got that same, percentage raise as well.
Yeah.
So, I think we see both ends of the spectrum. If they were going to reward Coach Biedenbow for the amazing things that he's done, then he would have gotten more.
Well, he did, Rob. He didn't get a 12. It's $535 to $625. He got a $90,000 raise. So I don't think it looks like some of them were across the board, kind of $20,000 and $30,000, but there was some. Again, I'm not good at the new math. there's some of them that were quite a bit more than, but Beanbo, that's one I would agree with. He deserves, I mean, he's put out some of, the best offensive lines the last 2 years and probably will do the same this year.
I think that it's either as good as it was last year or it's better.
Yeah.
That has the potential to be better.
Yeah, and that's one I'm worried about. And maybe that's a deal is we need to pay him another good chunk because we don't want him going somewhere.
Absolutely.
So, because I'm sure there's a couple of universities out there that would probably offer him that much.
I'm sure there are.
To come and do the same job. So,
but I mean, some of those guys are starting to get into the range that those smaller schools they're kind of out on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a lot of schools out there with enough money to pay them, but some of them they're going to run short of their budget and trying to get into those pay ranges that.
Yeah.
So, like if somebody tried to take Saban off of Alabama's hands. That's an $11 million a year salary. So, some of them coaches, some of those schools, they don't have the attendance, they don't have the sales.
Right.
There's only a few schools that could, afford somebody like that. So,
yeah, and again, it's dumbfounding to me that there's that much private money out there that people can donate that much to build that stadium up like it is, to pay the fees to get into it. That's another thing. We're talking about they ask about alcohol sales. And Castiglione said there's no plan in the near future for alcohol sales other than where it's already at.
I don't know, but I know that Oklahoma's getting ready to switch from 3.2 to 6.
Yeah.
6-point beer, and then if they let it go in the stadium at the same time, I mean, we could be having some problems. But
well, I mean, it can be regulated if you wanted to regulate it. I mean, I'm not stop selling it at halftime or stop selling it at the beginning of the third quarter. The Thunder stopped selling it at in the fourth quarter. So you could regulate it. We go to Dodger games. If you buy one of those packets, they give you. Obviously, you can go buy more, but limit the alcohol consumption in the stadium to 6 beers or 3 beers or whatever you want. So everybody gets a certain amount of drink tickets. Yeah, my wife, Teresa won't drink, so I will drink double if they can.
Hey, there's a surprise.
Yeah. So, but. I think it's another thing that Oklahoma is a little bit behind the times with certain things, and I think that's one of them. Just the fact that back in the day, when O'Connell's was across the street, everybody was at O'Connell's before the game, and at halftime, that's where everybody was at, and hell, half the people stayed there.
Yeah, because they couldn't find their way back over.
Yeah, they couldn't find their way across the street.
Well, the thing about if they started selling beer in the stadium, it would quadruple what they take in.
Oh
yeah, concessions wise, which concessions gives 58% to the athletic department.
So. Yeah,
it's a bunch.
Yeah, so I don't know, I don't know if it's a legal thing, if it's an education thing. Because somebody I think told me one time if it's a state funded deal that you can't sell alcohol at it, or state funded education function. And I heard that. I don't know what it is, but to me, whatever it is, and now they're saying it's not.
Well, there's no longer any NCAA holdups.
Right.
So it's either state or school, depending.
Right. And I don't think it's state, because if it was state, they wouldn't be selling it up in the donor boxes. Because, and I know that back in the day, some of you young whippersnappers may not have heard of liquor by the drink. But you used to not be able to buy a margarita at a restaurant, or you used to not be able to get a whiskey and Coke at a bar. But if you owned a private bar and you paid dues to that private bar could serve your alcohol to you. So basically, these bars around all over Oklahoma set up a $10 a month membership, and you brought in your bottle of Crown Royal, and they charged you for the Coke and ice for your drink. So, or it was probably more than $10 membership, but that's how they got around it. So, and that's what I thought maybe the donor section was, but now or what do they call that? The
club seating.
Yeah, club seating. That club seating is the only place which I don't think's fair. I mean, I don't think it's fair to.
So in the south end zone, if you hold a club seat ticket, you can go into the bar there and get a beer, and then go out and sit in your seat, which is in the south end zone, and you could be sitting directly next to somebody that does not have a club level seating and drink that beer right in front of them.
Right, and saying that's not right. I mean, it to allow. Let's face it, the financially elite, because I can't be a donor section. I don't make that much money. I mean, but I make enough that we bought season tickets this year, and that's the first year we had season tickets. So usually I'd go to a couple of games a year, if at all. I still prefer to watch them on TV, sitting in here with my beer. Then I'll have to worry about somebody buying for me. But I don't think it's fair to the fans, the regular fans. And when I say regular fans, it's, the middle income, we don't make enough to donate $2 million a year to the university. But there are people, and them, we've met them, especially doing this podcast, that have been, Tara from Paul's Valley, she talked about her family's had season tickets for years. They don't even, they come up just to go to the games. They don't tailgate. They come up, they go to the games, and they go home.
Right.
For, her not to be able to buy a beer in the stadium if she wanted to is not fair. So.
Well, I mean, there's two sides to every argument, but for whatever reason, Oklahoma chooses not to do that.
Yeah.
So I know, several people that work at Texas A&M, and they have a lot of beer-related incidents in their stadium during the game, before the game, after the game. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
One person messes it up for everybody, or kind of a deal. But
well, and I'm on the other end of that. I'm in agreement with you on that. Is that I don't believe Oklahoma and Texas will ever have a game later than noon kickoff. It's always going to be 11 or noon. Everybody's talking about, oh my God, would you, and it's true, the OU Texas game at night at the Cotton Bowl. Yeah, it would be cool, but you would have 80,000 drunk Oklahomans and drunk Texans, because you've been there. We've all been to the game. Well, most people have. The one time I went, it was an 11 o'clock game. We got there early for game day. First place I went when we walked in was to the beer. There's a beer stand opened up, and I went and got 2 beers. And
well, I guess it was 5 o'clock Sunday.
And so, but could you imagine how rowdy that place would be if it was a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock kickoff? And it probably wouldn't be rowdy a good thing. It would be rowdy
bad thing. Yeah.
Bad thing.
Yeah.
So
because a lot of that goes on already, no matter what time of day it is. So the later you push something like that, I think the more trouble you're going to have.
The more time you give them to pregame for that type of atmosphere.
I mean, let's face it, there are idiots on both sides of the fence. So there's more on Texas' side, but.
And it's just because it's not because there's more Texans than Oklahomans. It's just because there's more idiots down there.
Right.
But, I mean, it is something that, is a topic that people, are interested in and want to, it will happen one day. So, but anyway, well, once again, we want to apologize for the foul outs. Apologize to Andrew.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew.
And we're just gonna, if you were scheduled for next week, those who are scheduled for next week, we're just gonna move everybody a day. July, we won't have a podcast the week of July 1st through the 10th. We'll be on vacation. Well, I'll be on vacation. Rob's on vacation right now. but
Yay!
but we're going to be out of town, so we won't have any podcast. We're just going to move everybody back next week. So Andrew will be on next week, and I can't remember who else. And then we'll have a break for a couple of weeks, and then we'll kick back in. And we do have people lined up through the end of July. I believe we are lined up now. And just so y'all know, August 1st, we're going to kick it into gear with a bunch of preseason football stuff. We're going to quit talking about, memory. Well, everybody can share memories, but the focus is going to be on.
That's what makes us good Sooner fans.
Yeah. the focus is going to be on the season. We've reached out to some of the media outlets to help us out. Hopefully we'll get some response from some of them to come on about Big 12 Media Day and things like that. So we're working on some stuff for you guys. But just so everybody knows, the format will for sure, that's why we changed the format up a little bit. It will for sure change in August. We're still going to have fans on, but we're going to be more emphasized on what's coming up. And then when the season starts, it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have fans involved.
Well, that's what we're hoping anyway.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's it for tonight. Remember, Thursday night, come out to Buffalo Wild Wings,
B-dubs.
have a beer with us, eat some chicken, donate some money to a good cause. But that's a podcast for today.
And we also enjoy giving the waitresses a hard time. So
Oh, yeah.
There's always
Yeah.
that to look forward to.
Yeah, the waitresses they love us. Well, we don't know any of the waitresses. They've had a turnover, so Rob and I are what's the word I'm looking for? Indoctrinating them on how how things are to be done. It's kind of become our cheers. When they get to know us, we walk in, we don't even have to order.
Norm.
Yeah, they just walk in, and next thing you know, your drinks. Mine and Rob's beers are sitting there. Teresa's drinking a Mountain Dew, and then everybody else shows up. But they've had a little bit of turn. But it's a fun time. The staff there is great, and I just hope everybody can come out and hang out for a really good cause. So don't forget it on Thursday night. But we will get back on the podcast on next week. So we'll see you then. Boomer, Rob.
Boomer Terry.
Thanks for listening to the Sooner Football Fans Podcast. If you want to be on the podcast and talk Sooner football with us, go to www.soonerfootballfans.com. Click on the How to Be on the Podcast tab, fill out the form, and we'll get you on. Boomer.